Happy Halloween, everybody. I got. I'm gonna have to turn that off. It's a safety hazard. Hey, what's up? I am John Bonjour. I'm an artist and a film enthusiast, and in terms of horror movies, there is not a better holiday than Halloween. That seems obvious, but that also means that with the plethora of incredible Halloween horror movies, there's some bad ones. Like really bad. Like tremendously bad. So that's why I'm here. Just like I did a horror movie starter pack, I'm gonna give you a Halloween movie starter pack. They're all gonna be in the horror genre. It's just, it's Halloween. Like, what do you want? Comedy? Maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging you for that. It's just a wrong video. Starting off super obvious, Halloween 1 and 2, and that's important. And I'm talking the original John Carpenter Halloween movies, okay? None of the Rob Zombie, no shade if you like the Rob Zombie movie. A little shade if you like the Rob Zombie movies. Just a tiny little bit of shade. I like Halloween Ends, okay? So what do I know? Anyway, this is the granddaddy of Halloween horror movies. Some argue it's the granddaddy of all slasher movies. A couple of examples before that. But really, this is the one that got the craze going, okay? This is the one where all the sequels start happening and people realize, hey, we can just do the same movie just a bunch of times, and people just keep coming back for it. I'm people in that situation. I'm gonna do a whole video series as a retrospective for the Halloween franchise. But just quickly summing up my thoughts, Halloween 1 and 2 are the best. The vibes are incredible. It feels like a Halloween in the Midwest. It's chilly. All of it just feels spooky and creepy. It's not profoundly scary in terms of like a watch that you might go through, but at least for me, these movies have really sat with me. Now, it is important to note that I'm counting Halloween 1 and 2 as sort of one story, even though it's two movies. The thing that makes these movies such a great pairing is that one ends and the other picks up immediately after that. Like, there is, I think it's maybe 2 minutes difference between the end of the first movie and the beginning of the second. I cannot recommend this enough, especially if you've never seen the Halloween movies. Start with the originals. I know you're going to feel like probably starting with the newer ones because they're newer, but I promise you, you will not be dissatisfied with the originals. They are spectacular. Up next, we have my personal favorite Halloween movie, quite possibly my favorite horror movie of all time, Trick 'r Treat. This is an anthology movie, so it's following a series of different stories. They all kind of interconnect with each other if you're looking carefully, but it doesn't really matter. You can watch it without connecting them. But there's just something about this movie. The tone is perfect. It balances lighthearted comedy, really dark comedy, and some genuine horror scares, and I think a way that nothing else quite has. Even Michael Dougherty's other work, Krampus, and, well, the Godzilla movies, but those aren't really horror. They're wonderful, and I love them for what they are. But even they don't capture that exact feeling that Trick 'r Treat has. This feels like how Halloween used to feel to me as a kid when I would go out and trick or treat. Obviously without all the, murders and monsters and scary things. But the feeling of walking around, your little neighborhood with people in costumes all getting excited, that's what this feels like. And somehow they captured that and put it in a bottle. I watch it every year. I do not know how this movie was made. I mean, obviously, I understand how I know how a movie is made. I don't understand how this movie was made. I don't get how they captured the feeling of this movie in such a brilliant way. This also has one of my favorite kind of horror character designs in Sam, right there. He's adorable and also terrifying, and I won't say anything else. Next up, we're going back to the 70s, 80s kind of time with Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, or Brain Dead. As with so many horror movies, there's 3 titles, nobody quite knows which one it is, and we just all kind of live with that. Easily one of the weirdest and best zombie movies. Like I said, it was directed by Peter Jackson, who you may be thinking, is that the guy who did the Lord of the Rings movies? For families and nerds? Yes. Yeah, it's that guy. He did a bunch of horror before that, and he kills it. This is one of the best late night zombie movies. Little side note, I feel like zombie movies, there's either highbrow, Train to Busan kind of zombie, or there's just gory throwing people into a wood chipper zombies. This is definitely more along the wood chipper line than it is along the you're supposed to get thematic development. No, you're there to watch a guy with a lawnmower just plow through a room full of zombies. And you get that. It's also incredibly funny, and that was I had heard so many things about how gory it was and how scary it was. I had never heard that it was just laugh out loud funny. Totally is, at least for me. Whenever I say that a horror movie is scary and funny, I'm always afraid that somebody's gonna watch that and not find it funny at all, and then they're gonna think that I'm a psychopath. And then I think maybe I should be a little worried that I'm a psychopath. I don't know. I told my wife the other day that Evil Dead was a comfort movie for me, and you either get that or you don't. Anyway, therapy over. Boy, we're doing a rambly video. My fourth recommendation is Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage. Henenlotter is really known for these B-movie, monster movie, creature feature kind of stuff. This one's a little different than that, although not entirely. It really keeps his creature work at the forefront of the movie, but there's also a whole other allegory, possibly a couple allegories depending on how you want to read it. But essentially the movie is about this guy who gets this weird alien brain slug parasite that makes him do stuff by injecting him with like a bunch of different, happiness kind of drugs. I think this is one of the greatest, like, it's cold and rainy outside and I just want something to make me feel, not warm, but just, that like spooky warm. Does that mean anything to you? Do I sound like a crazy person? Anyway, some of this is really gross. It's all very insane. Some of the visuals are super dated, but in that way that just feels like good. It feels like you put in a VCR and you're just like really rolling with it. Some of the visuals are definitely out of date, but that's part of what makes it good. It's that kind of crunchy, physical, practical effects that I just absolutely love in a horror movie. Brain Damage and Dead Alive are both not inherently set around or on Halloween. I just think they have the vibes of Halloween. They just have that very unique sort of stink to them that works so well for Halloween movies. So I think they still count. And if you don't like that, I don't make your own video. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have enough subscribers for it to matter to me. Now, our final movie is directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It's called Haunt. It came out in 2019, very recent. I think that's the most recent for sure of these movies. I don't know why I had to check my list. It's not that there's anything wrong with recent horror movies. I just think they don't have time to develop that kind of cult status. This is one of the few that I feel very confident in saying that this is, the further we get from it, the more it's going to become a cult movie. This movie is so great. It's about these group of teens who go to this haunted house that's supposed to be one of the most extreme haunted houses, right? Where they can like touch you and do all that kind of crazy stuff. Obviously, it's a horror movie, so they start to find out like, oh, maybe there's something else going on here. The mystery of what's happening is definitely a huge factor on why this movie works as well as I think it does. But it's also just pretty scary and like really well shot. Like I think it's just got a good balance of really scary and just like pretty to look at. Not to mention I'm kind of obsessed with the concept of like a Halloween horror park or whatever. There's just something about that, Hellfest, Bloodfest, those kinds of things where it's like just like a tangible horror experience that obviously goes wrong because we're always testing fate with everything we do. I just love that kind of movie. And this one fits pretty well in that genre. It also, and this is going to be a very, very vague spoiler, but it takes a pretty big swing at the end, and most of the time when a horror movie takes a pretty big swing, I kind of end up going really good right up until that point. Works perfectly, at least for me. I mean, obviously your mileage is going to vary with some of these things, but it works great for me. So there you go. That's my Halloween horror list for 2023. I think that's probably going to be my Halloween horror list for most of the years, but who knows? Maybe I'll keep doing these. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I might be dead by next Halloween. That's dark. That's a dark joke. We're going to cut that out. Check out all these movies. Even if you've seen them, watch them again. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I do have a Halloween franchise retrospective series going on, so check out some of those videos and look out for a couple of them coming in the future. They are going to end on Halloween. It's fun because they're Halloween. It's Halloween the franchise, and then they're gonna end the videos. The last video is gonna come out on Halloween because it's Halloween the franchise. You get it. Thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear some other thoughts on random movies, just hit the like button, hit the subscribe, comment down below what movie you want me to see, or let me know if you watch some of these movies. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have a different Halloween horror list, definitely put it in the comments because I really, really want to know. All the time I want to talk about horror movies. That's all I want to do. I just live in this little prison of not being able to talk about horror movies as much as I want to. Anyway, I also have a comic. I feel like I gotta say that more often. I have a comic. It's on my website, www.johnbonart.com. It's called Edge of Bordertown. It's a good time. I'll be posting new pages as we go. So yeah, I think I've plugged everything. Don't do any of the shit that I said because I am not your dad for sure. This is the wreath from my door, from my front door. Don't tell my wife that I'm using it in the video. She's probably going to be sad about that.